All right, Adib.
How you doing?
Adib, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
I grew up at Atlanta, Georgia. That's my hometown.
Hmm. And tell me about your family. You had mom and dad?
Yes, my mom. I live with my mom and my dad, and I'm an only child, so I didn't really have any other children for the parental energy to manifest in. So I get a lot of the overprotection or a lot of over focusing. You
Hmm.
know, I wish I had a more intricate family dynamic.
How far did you go to school?
I went to my school was spotty. I attended third, then fifth, and sixth grade, ninth. Eventually, I got my GED in 2010.
What was your school experience like?
Um, I was heavily bullied. I was teased and taunted. Basically, children can be like piranhas. Basically, a lot of people say they can be innocent, but they can be like piranhas. They bucked at me, or when they knew I couldn't fit in a social paradigm, they threw insults at me, and I really couldn't converse with them. And that's kind of how depersonalization and disassociation started. Basically, the lack of
And the bullying was mostly because you were autistic?
yeah, I couldn't, get down with the get down. I wasn't on any social wavelength whatsoever. I was very quiet, and then, well, look at this quiet person. Like maybe we should pick on them or, pick pieces. And the other times I was trying to be bravado, trying to distill an image that I didn't know that I shouldn't be producing rather. So they would try to G check me, and I was doing too much, as they say in the hood. They say, you do too much, right? So either I did nothing or I did too much, and I still got it at either end.
What is autism? Can you describe what it
Yes,
is?
autism is the overconnection of neurons in the human brain. So let's say a regular person might have 50 or 75% interconnectivity. Autistic people have like 80 or 93%. Like, well, I'm not a neuroscientist, but something like that. Like neurons connect to things that they shouldn't connect to, basically.
So
So I was,
that'll lead you into what kind of behavior, or what are the characteristics of somebody who's autistic?
what are the characteristics of people who are autistic? There are like there are constants that autistic people have, specifically young autistic children. Always in awe, always anxious, always extremely focused, yet high at the same time as a weak feeling. And we would feel this as a child. I would feel different combinations of the five, of sometimes all of them at the same time, and it becomes very tiresome, basically. And that those constants are dependent upon input. For example, if a different routine is changed, or a different social situation, or maybe the ceiling is high instead of being low, or we're in a BJ's instead of a regular Kroger. I don't know. Just anything, any change on the inputs makes these constants more painful for autistic children, basically.
So you had difficulty socially.
Mhm.
Were there other areas of your life that were difficult?
Other areas of my life that were difficult. I would say the symptoms were difficult in terms of having autism.
Like what symptoms would you say?
Um, the symptoms of autism are overcaring slash over emotional. So I remember if I would hear something sad that would happen politically, I would cry. And let's say I was watching a TV show with my mom. Everybody Loves Raymond, TBS, 2007. And I would just scream and jump with laughter, just for joy, pretty much, too much, using too much emotion. And the second symptom, these two are subtle. The second symptom would be over proxying. So, for example, I was getting whoopings, or something bad happened in my life, and I would plug in, so to speak, from a virtual world. So, part of the sadness in my life, whether it was I think the Fat Albert movie or Clifford the Big Red Dog, I would somehow draw upon that in terms of my sadness, and I think that might be autism, basically. Another autistic thing that would be on this step 2 would be memorization. I remember I memorized like an entire episode of this kid's TV show, basically. I think it was Cyber Chase or something. So those are the 2 light aspects. Now, the heavier aspects, I remember I couldn't sleep alone. I always thought that there was a demon in the closet, and it's crazy. I tried to suffocate myself, so either I guess the demon wouldn't. Basically, I would completely cover my face with the covers, and I had a hard time in terms of peeing in the bed. That didn't stop until I was 13 years of age, and I would try to sleep with my parents. So I try to go with my mom, and I would be. She was watching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and I was afraid when the light turned green from yellow. So I was very, very oversensitive in that manner.
Lots of anxiety, it sounds like.
Yeah, lots of anxiety. Autistic, I remember in elementary school, I was somewhat turned off by my own body heat, and at times I got dizzy. That's just a little bit of the symptoms of autism.
School in general was just difficult. Your social life and all that must have been.
Yeah, non-existent, very painful, yeah.
How old are you now?
I'll be 28 in January.
So as you've aged, has it mellowed or changed?
Has it changed? I would say time is hard on autistic people because there's something called autistic regression, where basically you reach a point and then you start to fade backwards, kind of. So I got my GED. I did good at a technical college. But then all of a sudden, I was majoring in IT. I reached a level where I saw that I didn't have any problem-solving skills because I didn't have enough schooling. I had pretty much the problem-solving skills of a 6th grader because everything bad happened in high school. We chased away the teacher, or for math too. I was so bullied that I couldn't study, basically. I couldn't get the information because they were constantly bullying me. So it wasn't just that of different addictions that stopped me from being able to study IT, or I was never interested in it. Those 2 are valid, but the third one is that it's crazy. I graduated 3.43 GPA in IT, and I have the problem-solving skills of a freaking 6th grader. Like, how do you explain that? That's educational. That's pretty tough.
When you mention addictions, what kind of addictions do you have?
What type of addictions, basically? The addictions that I had, well, it started out, I think I can start out with my mom. She was kind of overprotective, right? She would, whether it was washing my face or what food I ate or the people in my social life that she chased away.
Your mom was very overprotective?
Yeah, very overprotective. She still, to this day, she still doesn't trust me to cross the street. I'll be 28 in January, right? And if I say I want to live alone, she'll say why it won't work, or all of those things. Pretty much suffocating feeling, like obsessed with me, basically. I heard Jordan Peterson use the adage, an old infant, which kind of stung when I heard him, like, dang, you know? So that's very overprotective there.
And back to your addictions, what kind of addictions do you have?
I think it was constantly being bullied by the kids at school. I would feel like prey or property, or just real horrible. and these intense emotions of autism, right? I think there's something wrong with our bioelectric feedback or just our bioelectrical systems. We feel so much energy. Between that, mom, and a social life, in a bad social life with the kids at school, I developed pre-fetishes as a kid.
What is that? What is a pre-fetish?
Okay, for instance, I tied myself up when I was young because one thing about autism, sometimes my chest, I feel this negative pressure. So, and this is many years later, I would like tighten the shirt up so I won't feel the trauma with my chest, some type of weird feeling, basically. But then it was more severe. I was tying myself up. I gagged myself a couple times, and I loved my mom's bra. I would always kidnap the bra. It was nothing else, but well, there were some tight leather pants near the end. But I would just feel this weird addictive energy, like it was a drug or something. And the more I did it, the more it kind of took over, basically. So, and I always dreamt of that I was in a hole in a tight space with my crush, basically. Like that was a recurring dream. And as a young boy, I always dreamed that I wanted to get married, which is weird because usually that's supposed to be a girl's domain. But I always dreamt about getting married down the aisle. But between that and the trapped in a hole with my crush, that's just freaking weird. But those were my proto fetishes, my pre fetishes, basically. Uh, I remember I walked out of the shower with only my chest covered, but not my lower regions. So that only happened one time, basically. So, yeah.
And you've had romantic relationships or no?
Um, Romantic relationships. My first romantic relationship was a dominatrix who was trying to double as my life coach. And I'm not sure I want to, I guess, discuss that. But so yeah, what would I talk about? Yeah, about my pre-fetishes. And there were two things that led me to porn, two huge events. One of them is what I call what was it? Day zero, basically. And that was a huge panic attack. I had I had my mom had to do the Heimlich maneuver on me because I was so stressed out. Like with autistic children, panic attacks are very common, basically. So she had to give me the Heimlich maneuver, and it was as if I saw the faces of 50 gods and 50 demons. I experienced trauma at night. I woke up and I felt like I was going to die. I was playing an old 2000 video game controller in 2006, and I felt like I was going to die. That panic attack was horrible. There was another panic attack that happened to me. It was in Value Village, and you know how blind people have a glazed eye, and I looked into his eye, and all of a sudden, it's as if the Edgar Allan Poe is the exact story that happened to me. I saw stars, and I felt extremely weak and dehydrated, and I collapsed to the floor, basically. So panic attacks, I think, with my compromised nervous system, bioelectric system, whatever, is what prepared me for falling for porn so much. And what really led to my descent in porn was I watched a horror movie called Jigsaw. So I was an autistic 13 or 14-year-old. So parents always have to be careful of what their children are watching because, and to this day, I look on the movie at Value Village and it's as if, okay, that was the movie that, took my soul or something like that, right? It basically the panoramic camera angles of the screens and people yoked or the contraptions or restrained and somehow that pretty much just took that control. That's what turned it from pre-fetish into fetish, basically. It was that movie.
Would you consider yourself an addict, a porn addict?
You know, I wanted to title this Autism Mishandled, but yeah, I would go with Born Addict now that you brought it so real so clear, basically. And when I went into start watching some fetish porn sites, that's when my sex drive had a huge increase. I was pleasuring myself 8 hours at night. It's as if the spirit of like 70 or like the spirit of 20 female porn stars, let's say Diamond, or the maybe 8 as well as 8 male porn stars, let's say Marcus, had literally the density of all those porn stars was over my entire body, right? Just the combination of raw sex. I was 8 hours, 9 hours, and I would see people being tied up or restrained, and I would feel I wanted women to do that to me, basically. I want women to whether choke me or do all these graphic things I'm not going to discuss, or rope or something. And it became my dream to be a submissive. So we won't use the other S word. It was a dream of mine, and it turned into a drug, like to avoid all the feelings of autism and the negative feedback that
How did porn affect your autism, or vice versa?
how did porn affect my autism? I was thinking of something else. I was thinking of something else, but something called it was no longer local, right? It was non-locality, basically. So let's say you're watching someone else pleasure themselves. Well, for an autistic child, you almost become the person. Like I would say non-locality, I didn't mention it. It's like an inverted image of the person, basically. So, you know, so they feel something, you feel something. It's like a VR. It's like haptic feedback, basically. You know, it's real crazy.
And you've had relationships with women?
I didn't have any relationship until my first Dame in 2014, basically. So I would use porn as a drug. If I couldn't, this pain from my autism or the overprotective mom, or you know, my mom said she didn't even trust me to get a fast food job. She kept saying that the people would bully me like they did in high school. So, and then there's the people in high school. Well, that was later. So porn was kind of like something you sniff or something you inject, and you just get this huge, you know, escape from your problems. But like all drugs, it only adds to your problems, and you still have your existing problems.
And so your personal relationship incorporated some of these fetishes?
We never really got there that much. It was mostly talk, and the whole that's mostly talk. I forgot the correct word for it, but yeah, basically.
Looking back at your life, you're only 28, but what do you wish you had done differently? Anything you regret?
Anything that I've done different. I wish that I didn't fall for, I guess, sex or porn so much, or been a hassle to my mom, or worked on myself more. I just let myself fade after 2014. Take responsibility, because yeah, I had a lot of problems that I mentioned, but I wasn't strong enough. There's this saying by a motivational speaker that I just realized that I just knew existed. His name is Jim Rohn. He said, don't hope for life to be easier. Hope to be better." So I wish I was better. I want to be better.
And you wanted to share your story
Yeah.
here. What motivated you to talk about autism?
I wanted to help young autistic kids out there that are might have a similar story as mine, so they won't fall into the gaps that I've fallen into. They won't fall into the holes that I've fallen into. And a big one is what I would call digital molestation.
Which is what
Digital molestation. For example, you could compare. Let's do a brief comparison of digital versus real molestation. Let's say a kid, unfortunately, is reacting to real molestation. Unfortunately, and I'm only saying this statistically, so I don't want everyone to say, "Whoa," it's some sort of natural normalness, unfortunately, that people have raped each other, and at some point the victim, the adult or the kid, places all the blame. The kid places all the blame onto the attacker at some point. With porn, sure, there's the internet companies. Oh, why aren't they censoring the 100 gigabit of kink that's flowing that the child might be watching in the parent's home? Yeah, there's the internet companies, the actors. There's all that, but fundamentally there's just the laptop, and it's just the child that's looking at the laptop. So it's hard to put the blame on someone else because, well, it's him that's doing it largely, and in many cases the child finds it, basically. So the characteristics of molestation is physical, mental, spiritual, and that's basically what virtual molestation is. I fell short of, I don't want to say virtual rape, but virtual molestation, because everything starts in the brain, right? You have powerful rocket ships and Intel processors, and I believe there was one thing religious that was attributed, I think it was Jesus, that if you look into the eyes with lust, it's as if you've committed adultery. So everything really starts in the mind, and we're seeing everything virtual. So that's what I say about virtual molestation.
What advice would you give to somebody who has a child who's autistic, or somebody who is autistic like yourself? What have you learned?
Now, this is an example that of why I would say virtual molestation is real, because it's something that the parents would never imagine happening, basically. And even if they somewhat know or imagine, they'll be like, like that's not really happening, or not like turning a blind eye to it. But basically, the parent's perspective is, oh, my child, that would never happen with my child. My child would never fall into that type of gutter or hole, or that with real molestation, it's maybe a close family member or friend, but with the virtual, it's you would never get into that, or that's an outlet. So just realize that porn is always there, even more than a pervy friend or an uncle.
What do you hope to do from here on? Where would you like to be in 5 years?
Where would I hope to be in? I hope to be in 5 years. My last relationship was, I had 3 relationships really. Only one of them was the dame. So I would like to be in a relationship. I think I realized I have my own apartment. I need to get a car. I need to get a job up and continue my entrepreneurship efforts. I can't wait till I'm mentally available, because people always talk about trauma bonding. So wait till I'm mentally sound or stable. That's going to take until the heat death of the universe to happen. So I need to work on the physicals kind of, as well as the financial aspect, and hopefully a little mental. But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story,
Oh, sure.
and I wish you lots of luck from here on out.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much.